Welcome back to another episode of Motogp Mac, and today we're going to talk about some of the updates that Aprilia brought to the Valencia test. Now, Aprilia is normally one of the hardest ones to spot any updates, especially in the swing arm, because it's always black and very plain. Now, they were running a new swing arm, my understanding is, and Crayfire also did confirm that that's what they were working on, but also they kind of broke the internet again by reintroducing the carbon chassis that we know they were working on. Now, Aprilia's carbon chassis looks very different to the type that KTM are running. And, you know, when KTM introduced their chassis or their carbon chassis with Danny Pedrosa, Aprilia hadn't done enough testing on it to actually run it either. Now, the advantage of running a carbon frame is fairly obvious, you know, because according to the regulations, the Motogp bike must weigh 157 kilograms, and a carbon chassis is definitely lighter than an aluminium chassis or a steel trellis chassis. So I suppose, you know, it allows the engineers to add weight to certain parts of the bike in order to help the balance in that. Also, the technology has got so good now that they can add to the flex of the chassis more and more that they want. But what I thought was very interesting about this was that while they did bring it for Lorenzo Savadori, he didn't actually do a lot of testing on it. My understanding is that he did 2 or 3 runs with 3 or 4 laps each on that carbon chassis, and he said that, you know, they're focusing on the 2024 bike. The carbon chassis is not in the priority list to test. Now, he said that the difference is very noticeable when you ride it. There are positives and negatives, but they need to understand the chassis an awful lot better. I do think we'll probably see it in Sepang. I do think they will do a lot of testing before the season starts on it and make a decision. The only problem I do have with the carbon chassis is if you look at Gas this weekend or at the test, they were not able to run the new carbon chassis. And my understanding is that between Jack and Binder, they snapped 3 chassis at the race weekend. So with a carbon chassis, obviously it can get damaged very easy, where an aluminium chassis would take a little bit of a beating, dust it off and go again. But Aprilia were very, very small. I would think it is more internal, and the swing arm was definitely different, but it was more internal. There was no major updates brought by Aprilia, which I do think is a little bit following the Ducati-esque approach. So I do find it interesting, but again, you know, they have a carbon chassis. They're the only the second team to have one, so definitely some innovation coming out from Aprilia. I don't think they're going to show all their cards yet, so I would definitely love to know your thoughts. What do you think of the carbon chassis that Aprilia brought? Definitely leave your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll be back again tomorrow with another video.